If you're an XRP holder, you know the feeling, right? That frustration of watching the price just sit there while all these huge headlines about institutional adoption are flying around. It's a disconnect that's really hard to ignore. But what if that flat line is actually hiding a massive build-out happening just beneath the surface? Today, we're going to dive into the news, starting with a mind-blowing valuation model from a trillion-dollar asset manager that completely reframes this conversation. And then I'll show you how some people in the community are using the network itself to get off the sidelines and stop just passively holding.
Okay, let's just jump right in. This whole story really kicks off with this one single powerful sentence from a paper by Franklin Templeton. In their analysis called Revolution Not Evolution, they said this: if legacy internet protocols had a way to do this, their values would have been incomprehensibly high. Now, that isn't just some throwaway comment. It's the bedrock for a totally different way of thinking about the value of these crypto networks. So what on earth are they talking about? Well, this paper lays out a whole new way to value these things that goes way beyond just looking at supply and demand charts. It's asking us to value the protocol itself, the actual infrastructure, kind of like we'd value a core piece of the internet. That is a huge, huge shift in perspective. And here's where it gets really interesting. Think about the first internet. It was built on protocols like TCP/IP, the stuff that lets you see this right now. It created trillions of dollars in value for companies like Google and Amazon. But the protocols themselves, they captured zero of that value. The HTTP protocol is worth nothing. But modern protocols like the XRP ledger are built completely differently. They're designed from the ground up to transfer value. And the protocol can actually capture a slice of that value right inside its native token, in this case, XRP. Now, to be super clear, Franklin Templeton did not specifically name drop XRP in their paper, but researchers immediately took this logic and applied it to networks just like it. So here's the key takeaway. For the first time ever, the actual plumbing of the internet has its own money baked right in. This changes the conversation from what's the price next week to what's the value of the entire railroad for a future global financial system. And, while all these big institutions are debating these giant valuation ideas, it's actually sparking a totally different strategy for some holders. They're starting to look at ways to actually participate in the network to accumulate, instead of just sitting around and waiting for something to happen. But let's stick with the institutional news for just another minute. Stick with me, because we are going to break down one of those active accumulation models a little later. But first, let's look at the institutional and regulatory wave that is making this entire conversation so urgent right now. Yeah, because this isn't just theory. It's not a what-if scenario. Let's look at how the institutional plumbing is literally being built as we speak, and the timeline is getting way, way clearer. For this, let's turn to Caroline Pham. She's the chief legal officer at MoonPay and used to be an official at the CFTC, so she knows what she's talking about. She recently said, and I quote, "You are now seeing that all come together this year for institutional adoption. Institutions have been working on blockchain technology and tokenization since at least 2017. She is not predicting the future. She's telling us that we are in the final phase of work that's been happening for nearly a decade." And what she says next is so important for understanding where we are right now. She points out that years of groundwork are finally leading to regulatory clarity. And the winning formula isn't just having cool tech, it's having a product people actually need combined with solid compliance. And here's the brilliant part. Finance doesn't need to reinvent the wheel. The old rules can be adapted for this new tech, and that's exactly what's making the big institutions feel comfortable enough to finally jump in. Okay, and maybe the biggest piece of this whole adoption puzzle is connecting this brand new world with the old school financial system. We're talking, of course, about the SWIFT network. And that bridge, well, it's not just in the planning stages. It's already up and running. What you're looking at here is not a theoretical chart. This shows how partners like Finastra, who are fully compliant with the new ISO 2022 standard, are already plugged into Ripple. This creates real working gateways for transactions to flow through the existing SWIFT network. The one that connects over 11,000 banks around the world. The secret ingredient that makes this all possible is a massive tech upgrade over at SWIFT itself. They've built a new, modern platform based on APIs that can handle blockchain and crypto transactions natively. It's a fundamental change from their old, clunky messaging system, and it means the bridge between the old and new financial worlds is officially open for business. Okay, so we've seen the institutional case for a massive revaluation, and we've seen the technical pipes being connected to the global financial system. So, with all that groundwork being laid, let's switch gears and explore one of the ways that individual holders are starting to engage more directly with the XRP ledger itself. This really represents a big shift in strategy for some people, moving from just passively watching the news to actually participating in the growth of the network. Which brings us all the way back to the question that so many holders are asking themselves. If this long-term institutional potential is real, are there any ways to actually accumulate more XRP right now by using the network instead of just, waiting and hoping the price goes up someday? Well, one answer that's come directly from the community is a decentralized web app called the XRP TIP Team. It's built right on the XRP ledger, and the whole system is designed around one idea: accumulating XRP by helping new people get onto the network and teaching them about self-custody. Getting started is actually really simple. First, you set up your own secure XMN wallet, which gives you total control of your funds. Then you fund it with just a little bit of XRP to get it activated. And finally, you join the system by sending a single one-time tip to the person who introduced you. That's what activates your own position in the network. Now, the real engine of this whole thing is what's called the infinite tip chain. It's based on a pass-up model, where some of the tips from new people you bring in, and even from the people they bring in down the line, get automatically passed up the chain to earlier members. The whole structure is designed to create a flow of tips that comes directly to your wallet from activity happening deep inside the network, way beyond just the people you know. And the whole thing is built on core crypto principles. First and foremost, self-custody. Your XRP is always in your own Zaman wallet. All the tips are sent peer-to-peer, directly on the ledger, so there's no company in the middle holding onto your funds. And because it's all on-chain, every single transaction is transparent. Your position in the network is even structured as an NFT that you can transfer, giving you true ownership. So as the massive, slow-moving world of institutional finance is building out the future, new and faster ways to participate are popping up from within the community itself. It really comes down to a choice between just passively holding and actively accumulating. If exploring a community-driven model like this sounds interesting to you, you can learn more about how it all works at xrptipteam.com.